Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's get into a story that's a perfect mix of payback and setting boundaries. Our OP lived with her best friend for 3 years, but the last year was a total nightmare. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Ex-roommate tore up apartment and states she's not responsible for any of the fees. I, female 24, lived with my ex-roommate, female 24, for 3 years, and it was great the first couple of years, but this past year's been a nightmare. In 2020, when she was moving in, she talked me out of putting her on the lease, and honestly, I should have said no to her moving in just for that, but at the time we were best friends and I thought I could trust her. At the beginning of 2023, she went to some classes and met a guy there. They had a thing together, but there was a rule set in place stating you couldn't date within the class. They decided to date anyway on the down low, and then they got scared they were going to get caught, so they ended things a couple months into it. Fast forward to the time they both are graduating this class. The guy has a new girlfriend that attends. My ex-roommate's infuriated by this and kept saying he was doing it to get at her, when really he just got a new girlfriend and she couldn't cope with that. Fast forward a little bit more, and my ex-roommate and this guy continued to hang out behind his girlfriend's back to the point where they were drinking together one night at a bar, and on the way home he got pulled over and got a DUI. This is where it starts affecting me because she owed me rent right around the time this was going down, and instead of giving me rent, she spent $1,000 bailing him out so his girlfriend wouldn't find out. When I confronted her about not paying rent, she said I was just throwing her mistakes back in her face and she never ended up paying me back for rent. Then she got in a wreck at some point and still owed quite a bit on her totaled car. She had gap insurance, but it was taking a while to go through. Instead of waiting, she decided to get another car payment before the insurance company paid off her other car, so she was paying on both cars and still struggling to pay me rent. I said something about that, and she complained about how she needs a car, and I suggested asking her dad to use his, since her dad works from home and uses her mom's car most of the time anyway. She got really mad over this and flipped out about how I think she's privileged or whatever. At some point while we were arguing, she suggested moving out, and I told her, okay, the lease is up in a few months. We can revisit this and see if anything has changed. She liked that, so we stayed until the end of the lease, and then we both decided this wasn't working and to go separate ways. She told me she found an apartment in the same complex. She also kept asking me to get a dog this past year, and I kept saying no because I didn't think she could afford it, and I wasn't going to pay for her to get a dog to tear up the place more. A couple days before her move-out date, she posted on her Snapchat story that she got a dog and didn't even tell me that she had this giant pit bull in the middle of our tiny apartment when I went to move some more of my stuff out. That infuriated me because she really couldn't wait 2 more days or warn me about the dog. I told her what we all needed to replace to get my deposit back, to which she replied over and over again, that's what the security deposit is for. Since she moved in, she ruined all of the blinds somehow, broke my bedroom window, breaking in a couple of times when she locked herself out, tore up the kitchen floor and entry floor moving the dryer in, tore up the washroom door because it was in the way, poked several holes in the walls, hanging things, and so much more. When she finally moved out, I went to clean the place up a bit and spent 4 hours alone cleaning trash out of her room and cleaning out the fridge that she left packed full of gross food. I also spent a whole day scrubbing the tub, which she left full of gunk, and scrubbing all of the other surfaces. I say she alone because it was getting so hard to live with her that I basically stayed with my boyfriend most of this past year. So I was gonna put all this behind me and move on, but I got a bill in the mail from our old apartment for $1,776.08, and my security deposit covered $820. So I texted her yesterday and said they sent me a bill for $956.08. Are you able to send half? To which she responded with a bunch of questions asking everything they charged us for, and I answered and sent pictures of the documents with receipts for everything. I knew in my gut she wasn't going to pay anything, but she straight up said, Okay, so looking at what all the deposit covered, looks like damages and cleaning expenses, other than the vinyl repair, which was $520.86. I don't feel like I'm responsible for the utility fee or the carpet cleaning, because that was on the lease as your responsibilities. You also told me you were going to get the carpets cleaned, so I will send half of the $520.86 for the vinyl replacement. I don't feel like I'm responsible beyond that. Basically saying screw you to me because her name wasn't on the lease. I also never told her I would get the carpets cleaned because I asked her to, and she said that's what the security deposit's for. She sent me $260, and that's it for all this. She moved in after I was already living there, so that security deposit was mine alone, and it's very frustrating that she just straight up didn't care to ruin this whole friendship over this. So after she sent that, I felt defeated, thinking I can't do anything about it, until I remembered we have a phone plan together. So I looked up how much I owed on my phone, $400, and in the policy it says if you cancel, you're still responsible for any fees on the phone. So I called them and canceled it and made sure to already remove my card info and my auto pay and told them to bill my ex-roommate for it. Since it was under her name and she doesn't care, why should I? And that ensures that she can't contact me anymore either. Friends tend to stop being friends when money's involved. And our second story. You want petty? How's this? I work in a small office block of 5 floors with a basement car park and only a single lift working at present instead of 2. I'm on the 2nd floor, and a few desks away from me works an older guy who I'll call dhead. Dhead's a character, but also just plain offensive and sarcastic at times, and has been a bit of a jerk to me a few times when I've asked for his help, which has really peed me off and insulted my intelligence. I don't like him. I try not to talk to him. I don't care what he did on the weekend or what he thinks about anything. We all work with someone like this. I'm sure you can relate. So the other morning I arrive at work and realize that dhead's not in. Wonderful, I think to myself. No jokes, no music, no dhead perhaps for the day. Excellent. I left my earbuds in my car, so go down to the basement car park to get them. I notice dhead has just arrived late, has pulled his car into the spot on the back wall, and is getting out of his car as I get back into the lift with my earbuds. I don't hold the lift for him. He's too far away. I don't even think he noticed me. As I get out on my floor, the 2nd, I have a moment of inspiration and run my hand down all the buttons on the lift and get out, sending the lift to every floor above me before it would go back down to the basement to collect dhead. I bought myself a few extra minutes of being dhead free. It's so petty, it's laughable, but I enjoyed it immensely. And I got away with it. It's the small pleasures in life, such as pushing a few buttons, that brings the most joy. And our last story. Rich dude tried to bully someone into selling his house, ended up losing everything instead. A few years ago, my buddy Jason inherited his parents' old house. It wasn't anything to write home about, just a modest place in a working-class neighborhood that had seen better days. But it was all his. No mortgage, no debt, just a house he could call his own. He's been working on fixing it up bit by bit ever since, turning it into a comfortable space for himself, even if the area was far from perfect. Right next door to his house was this old bakery, one of those places that had been around forever but had lost its charm over the years. The previous owners finally gave up on it and sold it to a guy named Mitch, who was, let's put it nicely, a real piece of work. Mitch wasn't interested in restoring the bakery or contributing to the neighborhood. He had bigger plans. His idea was to tear the place apart, expand it into something flashier, and add a bigger parking lot. The only problem, Jason's house was in the way of that expansion. Mitch made it clear from the start that he wanted Jason's property, but instead of offering a fair price, he came in low, assuming Jason was clueless about the potential value of the land. Jason, however, wasn't having it. He politely declined and countered with the actual market price. Mitch was offended, to say the least. From that point on, he started making Jason's life a living hell. Suddenly, Jason's driveway was being blocked by delivery trucks at all hours of the day, Mitch installed some blinding floodlights that shone directly into Jason's bedroom window, making it impossible for him to sleep. He even went so far as to spread lies about Jason to other neighbors, telling them that Jason was unstable, had a temper, and couldn't be trusted. On top of all that, Mitch would throw racist insults at Jason anytime they crossed paths. It was a classic bullying technique. Get under his skin and wear him down, and he'd sell the property out of frustration. What Mitch didn't realize was that Jason worked in city planning and knew exactly how to navigate the local bureaucracy. He wasn't just going to roll over. After some quiet investigation, Jason discovered that Mitch had been cutting corners left and right on his renovation projects at the bakery. Mitch hadn't bothered filing for the proper permits for his new construction, assuming he could get away with it. That's when Jason decided to strike back. An anonymous tip was made to the city, and pretty soon inspectors were crawling all over Mitch's new bakery expansion. Without the required permits, Mitch was forced to tear down the unapproved additions. But Mitch didn't stop there. Another well-timed tip triggered a health and safety inspection. As it turned out, Mitch hadn't kept the place up to code for years. Unsanitary conditions in the kitchen, faulty wiring, you name it. The place was a ticking time bomb. The inspectors didn't just shut down the expansion, they condemned the entire bakery for multiple violations. Mitch was hit with fines and repair orders that would cost him a fortune. In no time, the business was in shambles, and Mitch was forced to declare bankruptcy. The bakery was demolished, leaving an empty lot where his dreams of expansion once stood. As for Jason, he still lives in the same house, continuing his slow but steady renovations. It's safe to say Mitch won't be bothering him or anyone else anymore. Sometimes the best revenge is just knowing the system better than your enemy. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.